Hi, I'm Shania and I live in Kenya. I was around 12 years old when this event took place. I lived with my mom and things were going really well until she got a job offer far away from where we lived. It was a 6-month contract and it paid well, so she couldn't say no. The only problem, I couldn't go with her. The job required her to move around a lot and I was too young to live alone, so a friend of hers helped her find a babysitter. Let's call the babysitter Lucy. She was a young girl, just out of high school, and now attending a nearby university. My mom let her move into our house with her things, and even stayed an extra night to make sure I was okay with Lucy. They made small talk, and I remember Lucy telling my mom,
"Some of my classmates are into witchcraft. I would never involve myself in stuff like that."
My mom really liked her. She figured I'd be fine. The next day, as my mom was getting ready to leave, I handed her our Bible and said,
"Take this with you. It'll keep you safe."
She smiled and gave it back. "No, you keep it, so it can keep you safe." But just before she left, I secretly slipped it into her luggage. Looking back now, I feel like something bad was going to happen to one of us. And I think it happened to me, because I didn't keep the Bible. A couple of weeks went by. Things were okay, except for a few strange occurrences. Lucy slept in my room, and a few times I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of her praying. But it didn't really sound like praying, more like chanting. She kept repeating things like,
"Deliver me from evil and the snares of the devil."
It was during one of these nights that everything took a dark turn. She woke me up, this time on purpose, and she invited me to pray with her. I looked at the clock and it was around 11 p.m. I thought it was odd, but I said yes anyway. We knelt on the floor and she led the prayer. At first, it was normal. Then she reached for one of my hands mid-prayer and then the other. Before I could react, her grip started to tighten, tighter and tighter. My hands began to ache. Her voice grew louder and her tone, it became eerie. That's when I knew something was wrong and I screamed. She stopped praying and just stared at me. And then suddenly, she lifted me up and threw me into her bed and pinned my arms down. She began slamming my head against the wooden bed frame over and over again, all while chanting her prayers louder and louder. All I could hear was my own screaming, her voice, and then the sound of our door being broken down. The neighbors had heard the commotion. They burst into the room and turned on the lights, and the moment the light filled the room, Lucy stopped. She became instantly calm, almost like nothing happened. A man pulled her off of me, while others led me out into the living room. I was in shock, traumatized. They called my mom, and she asked one of the neighbors to take me to their house for the night. As for Lucy, the neighbors were furious. They questioned her, yelling, demanding answers. That's when she screamed and ran outside. And then, she did something truly terrifying. She dropped to the ground and began to slither like a snake across the grass. And then she got up and vanished into the night. The next morning, my grandpa came to pick me up, and I went to live with my grandparents for the rest of the 6 months. Lucy never came back. She begged my mom not to press charges, and she sent a friend to collect her things from our house. To this day, the whole thing still gives me chills. But one thing's for sure, it taught both me and my mom a serious lesson. Hi, my name is Chris and I want to share my scary experience. I'm from Croatia and I live in Zagreb. One evening, my friend, let's call him Steve, and I decided to go for a walk. When we met up, we couldn't really decide where to go, so Steve suggested we meet up with our friend group. When we got there, I said hi to everyone, but after about half an hour, I started feeling kind of lonely. I was new in the group and I didn't have much to say, just laughing at jokes here and there. It was getting late and I started feeling sleepy. I checked my phone and saw it was 10:45 p.m. I turned to my friend Steve and said, "Hey, we came out for a walk, right? Let's go walk." We said goodbye to the group and left. Both Steve and I have always been interested in paranormal stuff, so he said, "What if we go to the cemetery?" I hesitated, but then agreed. From my house, the nearest cemetery is about a 15 to 20 minute walk. The one we went to was huge. When we got there, we were surprised. No security in sight. Usually there are guards patrolling to make sure nothing gets stolen or vandalized. We were a little confused, but ignored it and walked in. Immediately, I felt chills all over my body. It was summer, so I didn't understand why I felt so cold. The cemetery was actually pretty well lit, so we could see everything clearly. There were 3 paths, straight ahead, which led deeper into the cemetery, right and left, which led back to different exits. Of course, we chose to go deeper. We were walking and just chatting about random stuff, mostly girls. Then, out of nowhere, Steve said,
"Hey, I heard if you whistle in here, someone whistles back."
That made me uncomfortable, but also kind of excited. I'd never seen or heard anything paranormal in my life. So I asked,
"You think we should try it?"
He nodded. I whistled first. Nothing. Then Steve whistled. Still nothing. I laughed and said,
"This is stupid."
And we just kept walking. But about 5 minutes later, we heard it. A whistle. Faint, but definitely there, somewhere in the distance. We froze, looked at each other. Then, we decided to go check it out. We walked toward the direction it came from, going deeper and deeper into the cemetery. I don't know what we were expecting, but didn't find anything. And as soon as I was about to say something, we heard another whistle. But this one came from directly above us. About 3 meters away, there was a massive oak tree. We looked up and saw a huge, ominous shadow. It looked like a woman, not moving, just staring down at us. We both froze, staring up at whatever that was. My heart was racing, and then, suddenly, I felt dizzy. We whispered to each other in panic. Then we looked up again, and she was gone. We stood there, trying to make sense of what had just happened, and that's when we heard a meow. But it wasn't normal. It didn't even sound like a cat. It was more like a woman imitating a cat's meow. And that's when we ran. In pure panic, we sprinted in a random direction, not even knowing where we were going in the cemetery. I glanced behind me, and what I saw still haunts me. The woman was now lying on the concrete, not moving, still making that terrifying meowing sound. She was pale, skinny, and wearing a black dress. And her smile was huge, but unnatural. It was creepy as hell. I turned back around, kept my head down, and just kept running in one direction until I got out of the cemetery. And eventually, we made it out. I was in shock. I turned to Steve and said,
"I'm going home. I feel sick."
When I got home, I was still shaking, still nauseous, still scared. And to this day, I've never gone back to that cemetery, and I never will.